Hey guys, this is Mr. Strange. Welcome to this awesome video. In the video, we will be reacting to the stories behind the world's funniest place names. Now maybe we can have some answers because last video and a video that I did earlier, I think last week sometime, both were like weird, funny, like city, street names type thing. And I'm like, okay, maybe we can do some behind, like the stories behind it. And maybe we'll get some answers. Who knows? Let's get into this video.
Warning. Some of this video is rude.
It's rude.
Starting now.
Okay.
Have you ever been to Bonar Bridge? Ever had breakfast in bacon or seen the delights of Fanny Big? The world is awash with weirdly named places, and in this video, we're taking a tour. We'll look at the best that Britain, the US, and the world has to offer. Which town is named after a game show? Which city sued the makers of Batman? And what goes on in Scratchy Bottom? Find out now in another Rob Words. For this very special episode all about strange place names, I've hit the road with my pal Martin and travelled all the way to the Estonian village of a place that's surely first on any list of ludicrously named locations. At least that's what I thought before I got here, and then I found that there's a place in Norway called Å. Anyway, in this video, I'll be looking at the weird names the whole world has to offer, from to however the hell you pronounce that.
Yeah.
Allow me to begin with the best of British. Being a Brit, I'm well acquainted with how silly our place names can be. My ancestors came from Clown, I've holidayed in Cockermouth, and I've frequently enjoyed a pint of Butcombe. It's a beer from a place near Bristol. But those are merely skirting round the rim. England, for example, contains a bonanza of bottoms. There's slap bottom, flash bottom, scratchy bottom, burnt bottom, galloping bottom, and lickum bottom. Why? Because bottom just means valley. But England also has places called Shitterton and Cocking, Bell End and Buttock. Most of these have a perfectly innocent explanation, of course, except for Shitterton, which was actually sited around an open sewer. Then there's, of course, Ugly and Nasty, both of which I'm actually told are quite nice. And if you go north of the border, Scotland also has its fair share of silly names. There is Bonar Bridge, the Isle of Muck, and the quaint Perthshire village of Dull, which nowadays is twinned with boring in the US and bland in Australia. And then in Wales, the local language throws out some fun ones too, not least the hiking hotspot Fanny Big, which is not far from a pair of pants. That one's funnier to the Brits watching than the Americans. Fanny Big just means point of the peak in Welsh, and a pant is a hollow. And then there's, of course, perhaps the most famous wacky Welsh place name of all, Llanfair Pwthgwyngyth Golgera Quindrobwth Llantysilio Gogogoch. I got a nice Welsh lady to teach me that, and it isn't so much ludicrous as it is long. It means St Mary's Church in the hollow of the White Hazel, near to the rapid whirlpool of Llantysilio of the Red Cave. But the locals just call it Llanfair. If we hop across the Irish Sea to Northern Ireland, you can pay a visit to Muff to enjoy its famous Muff Festival. In County Tyrone, they have a pair of ballocks, upper and lower ballocks, that is. And in County Antrim, you can stare open-mouthed into the Giant's Ring. More funny place names coming up in this next bit. So, all of this has reminded me how much I miss the good old UK. Not just because of the place names. I miss the fish and chips, I miss the people, I miss the beer. But you know what I don't miss? The TV. Not because it's bad, it's great, but because I use NordVPN to stay on top of all of the best telly from back home. Whether you're in the German village of Rimsting or in Intercourse, Pennsylvania, with a VPN, you can surf the net like you're anywhere else in the world. And that means you can have access to streaming services for other countries too. There are lots of other benefits as well. NordVPN can protect you on public Wi-Fi networks and disguise your location when websites want to know where you are. Some travel sites will charge you more if you're in 12 o'clock Knob, Virginia, than if you're in Klit, Romania, for example, assuming you've been able to find the place. But with a VPN, you can pretend you're anywhere. NordVPN also blocks malware, stops you being tracked by cloaking your IP, and intercepts malicious adverts. Plus, you can have it on up to 6 devices, so your whole family can stay protected. So go to nordvpn.com/robwords to get the 2-year plan with an exclusive deal, plus 1 bonus month on top. It's risk-free with NordVPN's 30-day money-back guarantee. So what's stopping you? 12 O'Clock Knob is just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to the many bizarre place names that the good old US of A has to offer. Although the difference with the UK is that whereas the British place names you can explain away with just a history, in the US, many of these places have only had these names for a couple of 100 years. So you don't have to go back very far to find the story behind each one. Although my first example appears to have been named purely by happenstance. Watch out, there's an accident on Route 219, the town of Accident, boasting a population of about 300 people, which wouldn't constitute a town in most parts of the world, but Accident has its own town council, and it gives an official explanation of how it happened upon its unfortunate name. The story goes that in 1751, a man called George Deakins was told by King George II of England that he could have 600 acres of land anywhere he fancied in the west of the state. So Mr. Deakins sent out 2 groups of engineers to survey the area, and they both happened to start and end their survey in the same place, at this big old oak tree. He therefore named that bit of land the Accident Tract because of the coincidence, and the new settlement on the site shares that name. Okay, let's get ourselves from A to B and to the delicious Bacon County of Georgia. The state actually has you fully covered first thing in the morning because it also has Coffee County. Disappointingly, though, neither of them is named in homage to the most important meal of the day. They're named after segregationist Senator Augustus Bacon and local Congressman John E. Coffee. I think Johnny Coffee sounds like a regular in a 50s diner. Hey, it's Johnny Coffee! I'm not going to keep that bit in, that's terrible. Perhaps the most arrogantly named place on the planet is Center of the World in Ohio. These days, it's actually quite a modest place with just a few houses. But back in 1845, an eccentric businessman called Randall D. Wilmot, old Randy Wilmot, had high hopes for the place. Its position at a crossroads made him think it could be a major trade hub, hence the hyperbolic name. However, the arrival of the railroad not long afterwards meant its position was just no longer that pivotal. This guy had previous, by the way. He also established the beginning of the world in New York. The next I want to look at is Nameless. Nameless, Tennessee. Local legend goes that it ended up with its non-specific name because of an error when officials applied for a post office. They apparently left the name field blank, and the area was designated Nameless. I wonder if the same story is behind No Name in Colorado and Nowhere, Oklahoma. A real favourite of mine is the surprisingly ill-fortified town of Protection in Kansas. It got its name because the locals wanted to show support for a protective tariff proposed in 1884. However, Protection's name took on a new significance in the 1950s when it was chosen as the headquarters for the distribution of free polio vaccines. That's some smart public health messaging. A PR campaign is also behind my next crazy place name. So back in 1950, the host of a hugely popular radio quiz show made a surprise announcement. The show was planning to hit the road, and maybe it could be coming to your town. To secure a slice of showbiz, all your town had to do was rename itself after the show. And that's how we end up with Truth or Consequences, New Mexico. The excited people of Hot Springs, as it was then called, were the first to get their town's name changed, and a day after the deed was done, the show, Truth or Consequences, aired live from there. They've kept the name ever since and hold a festival every year to commemorate the event. Our next place has had more than its fair share of the media limelight too. It's this little bit of land in San Bernardino County, California. Zzyzx. The fella who gave it the name appears to have just made it up for a laugh. He was determined to create the last word in the English language. Indeed, Zzyzx Road is the last road alphabetically in the US, and I've got to say, probably the world. No one actually lives there, which is perhaps a good thing, but its remote location and end-of-the-earth style name did mean that it inspired not one, but two movies, the second of which appears to have taken an astonishing $30 at the box office. Almost enough to pay for a taxi out of the place. And from the alphabetical depths, let's return to the top. I think R, as lovely as it is, shows well enough that the world outside of the UK and the USA can more than hold its own when it comes to the ludicrous labelling of localities. So I have scoured the globe and picked out some of the wackiest names among them. I'll do my best not to be offensive towards local languages and cultures. It's time for a world tour. Music, please. I hereby bring you my top 10 terrible place names. At number 10, it's the Turkish town of Batman. No Caped Crusaders here, but that didn't stop the mayor trying to sue the makers of the movies over their use of the name. Grabbing our attention at number 9 is the Russian village of Oi. Actually, not the rudest place on the list, but probably the coldest. Next, I've bought us a one-way ticket to Disappointment Island. It seems the folk that stumbled across this barren rock off New Zealand were unimpressed by its lack of natural resources. Happily, no one's ever had to stoop so low as to live there. At number 7, what's that coming over the hill? The town of Monster. Does anyone else remember that song? Anyway, Monster in the Netherlands probably gets its name from a local monastery, or because of its monster of a church, which was pretty big for its time. For 6, let's scramble and head to the Austrian town of Egg. It boasts the Egg Brewery and the Egg Museum, neither of which contains any egg. It's a mere 450 kilometres away from its stinky sister village of Rottenegg. Barely staying alive at number 5 is Kill in Ireland. The same often unfortunate prefix, meaning church, also results in Killdeer, Kilbride, Kilmacow, Kilmore, and, oh my god, Kilkenny. Putting up stiff competition at number 4, it's Dildo, Newfoundland. Talk show host Jimmy Kimmel is honorary mayor. Wriggling its way into 3rd place, it's Magotty in Jamaica. You'd be well advised to steer clear of Magotty Market. Next in this race to the bottom, at number 2, it's the central French village of Anus. The locals will tell you it's pronounced Anus, but you don't have to put up with their cheek. And at number 1, it's the cream of the crop. The town with the brown, the settlement with the excrement. It's the Iranian village of No, they're too rude. Okay, let's go with Condom, France. It's not twinned with Protection, Kansas, but it probably should be. Now, there are enough of these to make many more videos like this one. We haven't even touched on the ones that are funny in their own language, for example. If you want me to make more, then do let me know in the comments. And if I haven't left you on disappointment...
Well, guys, that would be... I don't really know. But, hey, if you guys are new to the channel, please subscribe. Don't forget to like it. And I guess I will see you guys on next time. Goodbye.